All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's Red8 Active Directory Dashboard, also known as RAD webinar. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. We're going to start off with a brief intro about Red8 and our solutions, then dive into what RAD is, followed by a demo. Please be sure to stay on mute throughout the duration of the webinar. If you have a question, enter it into the chat function within WebEx, and we will make sure it gets answered. As a thank you, everyone will receive a $35 DoorDash gift card, so make sure you stay on for the duration of the webinar and be on the lookout for that once the webinar concludes. So with all of that out of the way, I will pass it over to John Matthew, Director of Cloud Automation and DevOps here at Red8.
Thank you, Yvette. Hopefully you guys hear me okay. Yvette, did I sound all right?
You sound perfect.
Excellent. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. And I see a variety of customers from across the Red8 customer base. And again, thank you for that. So real quick, we'll get right into it. I probably won't keep you all an hour, but I do encourage questions around as we get going. So first of all, a little bit about me. I've had a long background in IT. They call me the Microsoft advocate or fanboy here at Red8. I do love Microsoft products. I've been supporting them for years. I have, like I said, a long history there. I do run also the Red Hat practice. We have a huge Red Hat practice as well. Automation, I am a developer personally on the side. I do a lot of development. You can watch my GitHub account, etc. And I get the blessing of having to be able to race cars on a part-time basis with a bunch of great friends of mine. So a little bit about me. I love Red8 because we have a very simple mission statement, and I believe RAD falls into this, right? Basically, get your customers to be more, use technology better to give them an advantage to run quicker. So that's the goal, and this is just one of the tools in our arsenal to get that done. If you don't know about Red8, right, it's a large company. We're one of a part of three or actually five now, 5 or 6 companies under a parent company. Red8 itself is the VAR side or the value-added reseller for our customers across the country, and we're slowly going internationally. We have a lot of assets. We have a beautiful technology center up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And if you're interested in seeing that, by all means, reach out. And we do a lot of business with regards to IT and stuff like that. So our family of brands, basically Insight Investments is the parent company. We have a leasing financial services company that has the 1.2 billion plus in assets. We have a very interesting company that I have always wanted to do in IT, right? As IT and IT systems admin, we would refresh our hardware every 3 years, and it seems so tragic because those servers and devices were still good, but they're on warranty. So what do you do with them? Well, Second Gear takes those, they refurbish them, and they send them out to their customers, and they have a booming business. And that is the facility up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Very impressive facility. On the Red8 side, we are your traditional VAR in the space. We started as a NetApp reseller, but we have branched out and have become a very broad-based, services-oriented company regarding that. And we have a few others. We've been growing like a weed, picking up capital investments, marketing, insight, material handling, etc. From a Red8 perspective, we have a broad base of both data center and then into end user computing. My division is the DevOps and cloud area, right? So we deal with all clouds. We deal with automation. Obviously, Microsoft is in there. Active Directory falls into that space. We also have a very good cybersecurity and compliance division, as well as an analytics division. So all of these divisions have done very well for our customers. And again, I encourage you to reach out, and if you have any questions specifically around that. Let's see, I know this little thing pops up now and again. I'm trying to get rid of that. There we go. All right, moving on. So what is RAD? So RAD is the Red8 Active Directory Dashboard. And just a little bit background real quick. So in case we hadn't realized this, but Active Directory is over 20 years old. This is pretty amazing to me. I did the old Windows domain stuff back when I started, and Active Directory was just coming out, and it's a very robust system. Most companies have this, and it's the number one directory services used by large and small companies. We have customers with 1, 2, 15, 20 domain controllers around the world. It's grown, it's had its issues, it's growing issues, but today it's probably as stable as ever. And now it also links you up to cloud services for, cloud SSO, et cetera. So we've had a lot of business in the Red8 and the Active Directory space for customers because it's one of those technologies that sort of becomes legacy, and people either don't have the resources or don't want to deal with it. So we've covered things like upgrades, we do security reviews, consolidating for us. This could be a huge pain for everybody, right? Object cleanup. We have customers that have thousands of service accounts with maybe a no owner, and they want to make sure those are locked down tight. We've done process automation to integrate, say, their HR system. So as a new employee comes on board, it flows down the system into Active Directory. So those users are created based on attributes, puts them in the right group. So when they start on a Monday, they have access to what they need. And then obviously best practices review. So given all of this background we've done with Active Directory, we built a product called RADD. Now RADD well, I love the name, but it's essentially a set of Microsoft technologies in an Azure dashboard that gives you very clean and concise access and information, and you'll see that in a second, around the health, performance, replication, and availability of what your Active Directory is doing. This is designed for an on-premise Active Directory environment, right? And we do touch into the Azure Active Directory connector, but really the goal here is to allow those customers still on premise, and there's plenty of them, to be able to get a very simple, free, I put in air quotes, dashboard of how their Active Directory is doing. I'd say a lot of our customers, it's doing very well. However, we want to make sure that if it does have a problem, we can be alerted to that. So who benefits? Anybody running Active Directory, and I haven't met a customer that doesn't. So again, a lot of us are moving to cloud services. In those cloud services, though, Active Directory is still a part of it. Moving off of Active Directory is available, but it's difficult, and frankly, I'm not sure you get a lot of benefit there. So basically, what's the cost? So running the dashboard itself is free. I put in air quotes free there because there is a certain amount of freeness in Azure's dashboard that you get. However, and I've estimated that to be about 5 domain controllers. You should incur no monthly cost from Azure. We do, of course, charge an engagement fee to get this set up. And then hopefully from there, right, you see the benefits of what Red8 and our cloud team can bring to you and expand on this. And I'm happy to take questions along the way about how this is built, et cetera. All right, so quick live demo. Not quick, but let me switch around here to another window. Hold on a moment. Stop sharing real quick. More of a Teams user myself, but we'll get this going here quick. All right. Somehow it's giving me.
We have a question,
good morning.
John.
Yes, I see Ken asking already.
What is the ballpark cost of the installation engagement for 4 domain controllers?
Ken, for you, it's $1 million. Kidding. So it's going to be about 10 hours of time. So it's about $2,500. There we go. All right, so we'll share that screen. So everybody, welcome to RADD. This is what RADD looks like. So just a quick background. If you haven't ever seen an Azure dashboard, Microsoft does a phenomenal job of giving you the ability to customize these dashboards for just about literally any piece of information that you have in Azure. What this technology is using is what's called Azure Arc. These are agents that get installed on your on-premise servers. I only need an Azure subscription to get this started. That data then flows from the client or the agent up to the various technologies in Azure, and then from there, magic happens and you get this dashboard. So the beauty of RAD is it is each one of these solution cards, as they're called, are maintained by Microsoft. So as Microsoft makes improvements to these solutions, we see immediate benefit. We don't have to reinstall any agents. All of that is handled for us. So RAD comes, as I mentioned before, there's 6 main ingredients to this. The main one is your health check. So this is, now in our lab, let me just go back a little bit here, sorry. Our lab is a very simple setup. We have a lab down in a colo. We've got a VMware environment. We've got a domain, obviously. We have an Azure Active Directory up to Azure Active Directory, right, connected up there. And then, so we have 2 basic domain controllers. So it's fairly straightforward, right? Pardon me. Don't drink water before you give a presentation. All right, so the health check, this is I'd say the main one that we're looking for, right? There are 107 health checks that Microsoft performs every week on a schedule. They're basically, they rip through a bunch of PowerShell locally. You don't have to maintain any of this. And it comes up and says, okay, this is what we found, and this is what we consider to be low priority, high priority, et cetera. And again, the beauty of this is in the case of, say, security compliance, looks like we're good. Now, on the availability and business continuity, for example, so it's come up with 2 low priority recommendations. And you're like, well, what the heck does that mean, John? Add a subnet definitions to sites. Now, this is actually very common, right? You've got Active Directory, and hopefully we all know what sites and services are in Active Directory. If not, our group can happily educate you on that. But our network team went out and built a new VLAN. And Active Directory is noticing that there are logins from that. Now, the reason this is important is this can slow down logins. If you have any time in the Microsoft space, you know that customers can complain, or your clients can complain about, my logins are taking me 30 seconds. Well, that might be because they're hitting a domain controller in Mexico when they're sitting in New York. Who knows? Now, in the case of this one, right, so this is saying, look, this is a subnet definitions to Active Directory. The beauty here, again, a complete Microsoft solution on how do you fix this? Where do I go? What do I do? How do you fix it? Right? So for every one of these call outs, there is a defined solution, right, on here. Now, in the case of this one, remote registry services, we've turned those off. Right, so back to health check, same kind of thing all around. You get all of these great recommendations. Now, again, most of us, we would want to see green across the board, 100% no problem. But as we know, if Active Directory goes down in our environment, it can be very detrimental. It is a very robust system. It's highly replicated, highly redundant. The clients know how to get to, a non-down domain controller, but that's not something you want to keep in your environment. So system updates. Now, this is a very cool feature, right? We've thrown this up here. Basically, if you think of WSUS and or Windows Update, on any machine that I have this agent installed, it will tell me, are there missing security updates, specifically around Active Directory and Windows. Notice there's also a Linux piece here, right? It understands Linux. It will use the native Linux package manager to determine if there's any missing ones. In the case of Windows, obviously Microsoft product, this one knows exactly what's missing, and it tells you the severity. Luckily, no criticals. There is one security update. So real quick, behind the scenes, what this all uses is something called log analytics from Microsoft. Think of Splunk for Azure. It's a very, very powerful environment. You can basically ingest any sort of data. It will columnarize it and give you the ability to do queries. Now, it's similar to SQL, but it's not SQL. It's their own. It has a lot of features about it that are very good. I'm not going to go into it here. But in the case of this one, I click on it and it says, these are the logs I found, and this is what's going on. Okay, so it's telling me the security update, specifically what's going on. I can get into the details. I can drill right into all the data that was brought back. If you're familiar with any sort of logging system, this is very similar to Splunk or anything else. It's just, this is all included in the environment of log analytics. Close that. Right, so we've got all of these here. I've got no Linux updates missing. And again, I can see some very common update queries. This is all built in. This all comes with RAD, and it's a very nice setup. So I'm not going to drill into every one of these. I'm going to drill into one more of these. So AD replication status. This is very critical. We actually had our one of our SAs upgraded our lab from 2008 to 2019. RAD went nutso saying, what the heck's going on? Everything was erroring out. But again, I was able to drill in very quickly and see what was going on. So in this case, thankfully, I've got no issues. Now in these dashboards, I have the ability to set the date. So this is saying just the last day, but I want to see 30 days. Have I had any issues in 30 days? I have not. Look at that. Excellent. So I don't need to worry about that. I've got complete ability. Azure Active Directory connected servers, right? Those of us that have Azure AD connected up to or Active Directory connected to Azure, say for Office 365, I can check this. Now that product itself has its own dashboard, but this can be included in here. Gives me some stats. Very nice there. And a benefit of running these agents on premise. Again, I want to stress again, this is an on-premise solution running Azure Arc. I get something called the service map. Now, in our case, we only have 2 domain controllers, but from there, I can get essentially, waiting here, watch pot never boils. I get a service map of who and what is connecting and what ports are open in my environment, right? So in the case of my first domain controller, gives me some information. This is all a side benefit of installing these agents and running RAD. If I had 5 domain controllers, to Ken's question, I would see 5 things here and how they're interconnected. I could see who my customers are connecting. Let's say, I get a call that says, hey, it's taken me forever. I could see immediately they're connecting to, say, the Mexico DC controller. I can do all of that, and it might be tied back to that error I saw earlier. So again, another nice feature here. So that's service map, connectors. And then one thing something I've not found in the Microsoft space that's terribly easy to do is change tracking. Now, change tracking from a Microsoft definition says what things changed on these servers in the last 30 days. I think this is super cool. Basically, what this does is it tracks what it knows about, i.e. it's a Microsoft product, it's a Microsoft server, so it knows exactly what's changing. On your Linux boxes, it would be a little different. Tells you which software is changing, if at all, right? What services. Now it says, look at that. Chrome's changed, Edge has changed. What else has changed? Service changes, 515. That seems like a lot. So click on it, we get right into showing me what has changed. Now in these cases, it's bits, which is the basically Windows Update system checking to see if there's any Windows updates. So that does turn on and off on a scheduled basis. But again, nice to see that data all included with the product. Right now, in the case of, so this is sort of a summary of what category is changing by day. And then this gives you a very clear understanding of, let's see what software changed. So in this case, it is Edge. Thank you, Microsoft. Chrome looks like it updated itself. So a lot of us need this kind of information for audits or just, hey, did somebody update the software on a server? For example, Roberto, who is the person who manages our lab, he went in and upgraded the domain controllers from 2008, this was about 3 weeks ago, to 2019. This graph was crazy. This was huge, right? Tons of changes, but it was all accurate. So out of the box, right, you get 6 really nice cards to run with. Gives you a health check, gives you Microsoft recommendations of what needs attention, what doesn't need attention. But on top of all of this, since it's an Azure dashboard, right, I've got my own little dashboard I've run, right? I've got a graph here of log data, how much I'm ingesting. In the case of, as an example, I put up some CPU utilization. So a lot of our customers are SMBs, right? They're not necessarily running, they don't want to install some huge monitoring solution. They do need logging. They might run logging I'll be honest, it's typically a security group that runs it and they don't have any visibility. But basically for free, you can run this solution and get yourself some monitoring of what's going on. And those can be set up very easily. Like we would come in, we would set up your RAD dashboard and we could work with you to build just about anything you would like. If you have custom PowerShell that runs every night to restart a servers, whatever, we can add all of that into the RAD dashboard. So I mentioned I wasn't going to keep you guys an hour, so I'm hoping there are lots of good questions to fill some of the time here. So I'm happy to take questions, or we can have a conversation, however you want to cover that.
Yeah, so a couple questions came in while you were doing the demo. When you were in the middle of it, what about Mac? Wasn't
Mac?
a question? Like, yeah.
Like Apple Macintoshes, do they still exist? I'm kidding. So again, this is a server-based sort of environment. This is I don't believe the agent works on a Mac. No, if that was the question. Pull open chat here just so I can see the question.
Okay, and another one, yeah. Does RAD have any features existing or planned for those customers that are in a hybrid AD Azure stance that would provide information as to if Azure AD Connect's sync is functioning normally or if the sync is experiencing an issue? Can RAD send email alerts for such issues?
What? I should pay Brad Flynn for that question. Brad, that is an excellent question. Yes, we do. So part of, I know you guys you probably see the black chat box there I've got open. So Brad, specifically to your question, yes, this, get out of it. Let me close the chat box so you see it better. Go back to the dashboard. This guy here. So we have replication status amongst our servers. We also have AD connected servers. So in the case of what Brad's asking, if my Azure AD connector breaks, and it does happen, right? Service fails, what have you, my network goes down, this would turn red with errors for alerts. And you could then click and see what's going on, right? It would give you a log entry to say, and those log entries are literally from the event log to tell you what broke. So that answers the question there. Any other questions? About Mac. I'm curious about Michael's questions about the Mac, because Macs don't typically sit in the server room. I'm wondering if he's thinking there's a client side to this. Not sure. So back to Ken's question for what's the ballpark cost of a 4-domain controller engagement? Our estimate right now is about, for 5 or fewer domain controllers, it's about a 10-hour install. And so we're charging $250 an hour. It's about $2,500, but it would vary. It's a T&M engagement, Ken. So it would depend on what's there. Is that last question there? Does RAD have to see? What desktop was the record experience? Oh, someone's good. Yes. Yeah. So they basically answered the question of what additions.
And then does RAD work with 80 domain controllers built on Windows Core, i.e. headless DCs?
So good question. Haven't tried it. I believe it should. If you can get the agent installed, then yes, it would. So real quick, so a little bit of technical background, right? So when you build an Azure VM, right, in the cloud, you get a basic agent that runs on there by default. That is the same exact agent for the most part, about 90% of it, that you get when you install the base Azure Arc agent on premise. From there, you need to install more features of that agent to get all of this great stuff. So if you can install the base agent on Core, then you should have the full ability that you would get. Interest to those of the education environment. Hi, Paul. Education environment. So I don't know the specific. The question is there a feature that would be of interest to those in the education environment? I don't know specifically. This was geared really towards making sure Active Directory is healthy and staying up. There is no limit per se to once the agent installed, you can wrap as much, or we, Red8, could help you wrap as much automation around that. For example, let's say you had a PowerShell script to see how many students are logged into application XYZ. We could put that on the dashboard. That would be something we could do. This technology would then this technology could wrap around any internal applications on premise. We could capture and start capturing all sorts of great app logs if that's kind of where you're going with that, Paul. Not sure. Anybody else?
Last chance for questions.
You guys just want your DoorDash and get the hell out of here, don't you? I know what it is.
Oh, we have another one coming in.
Way to go, Ken. That will work. Back while we're doing that, I will switch over to the PowerPoint. I'll let you read that question there, Yvette.
Yep, I got it. Says, can you look at the last login for users and computers and the access volume of groups?
Excellent question. So, sort of. So, knowing that this is a Microsoft product and it's free from Microsoft as a solution. So they also have a security solution that they bundle and does a lot of that stuff there. So out of the box, no is the answer, because what they've done is they don't, for example, let you pull down the event log for security. They do that in their other product, which is a costlier solution. Very good solution. I'm not going to down on that. It's part of their Sentinel product, and we can have another demo on that someday. So if we have a script or something that gets that for you, but I think we could probably come up with that. If it's a event log that shows maybe in the Active Directory system or something to that effect, we could probably wrap some PowerShell there, Ken, to get you what you want. But from a security, Microsoft does a very good job of keeping you out of the other space of their security product.
But
yes, that is correct. Yes, you can write your own PowerShell scripts. There is what I'm not really unveiling here, and we should have probably another webinar on this, is all the tech behind this product is really awesome. So Azure Arc itself essentially turns your data center into Azure. And I don't mean that from a provisioning perspective. I mean that from a logging and automation perspective. So, we're happy to work with you guys and come up with that. If you have my recommendation would be if you have a ton of PowerShell scripts that you run on scheduled tasks or whatever, you can throw those into Azure Arc, or in Azure, you get a lot. It's very robust. You get better logging, better scheduling, better alerting. All of the Azure features are available to you once you move that stuff into Azure and their automation suite. And happy to, that's what our group does. We would be happy to come and help you guys. We've taken that technology, built RADD, given you a really nice dashboard, and again, a toe in the water to get into Azure Arc, Azure dashboards, and then get you on your cloud journey to see would it make sense to, keep this stuff on-prem, move it to the cloud, etc. So hopefully that helps. So any more questions? Well, leave that there. And so
once RAD is set up, would we need to engage your team to make adjustments or enhancements to our dashboard?
oh, great question, Tim. Of course. No, I'm kidding. So once it's set up, for example, the dashboard that's there has been built for months. I don't touch it other than to tinker with it. I would probably say that we would work with your team to teach you the dashboard stuff, show you what's available. And if you're at all geeky, you'll go nutso on your own. And so the answer to your question is probably not. Again, the goal is let's have a bigger conversation about how can we do more with Azure for your company. But the dashboard itself, no, you don't really need us to handhold you after it's set up. Good questions from everybody, though. Very good. So on that note, I will proceed on to the closing part. Again, I hope everybody enjoyed it. Really appreciate everybody showing up and asking the questions, listening to me ramble. I do enjoy the tech. It's a lot of fun. And by all means, get in touch with us, either through your rep or this information here. And I'll make this, Yvette will probably make this available, this PowerPoint available to you. And I believe you have a recording as well, right?
Yep, that's correct. Reach out to your reps accordingly to continue the conversation. This webinar is recorded. I will be forwarding it along. And be on the lookout for a $35 DoorDash gift card in your inbox later today. So thank you, everybody, for joining. We're super excited about this offering. We appreciate your time, and have a great, wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, everybody.